for the hardest-hitting show in talk radio. The true progressive voice since 2012. This is Southpaws.
And welcome to Southpaws on the Pacifica Radio Network. We are the leaders of the revolution. My name is Darren Gibson, and I'm your co-host.
I'm Katy Steele.
I am Jack Prince.
We have got a packed show for you today, including a double Hammer Time segment this week. One of them a repeat from last week. This will be an interesting segment. We got to talk about the election this past Tuesday and what it means for Democrats. We got lots of stuff, so let's go ahead and get right into it. But before we start, a couple of reminders. You can follow us on social media by going to facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. You can follow us on Twitter at Southpaws Radio. You can follow us on Tumblr at southpawsradioshow.tumblr.com. You can follow us on YouTube by doing a search for Southpaws Radio. You can become a patron of the show by going to patreon.com/Southpaws Radio. You can listen to the show anytime at Spreaker, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and now on Reason.fm. So listen to us there anytime you like. We send links to our weekly episodes to our Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and YouTube accounts. You can listen to us on Global Community Radio Channel 1 every Saturday night at 11 Eastern. And you can hear us on great Pacifica stations, including KCEI in Taos, New Mexico, KZGM in Kabul, Missouri, and KEPJ in San Antonio, Texas. So be sure to listen to us there. Quote of the week this week comes from Sophocles. He said, "Opinions have greater power than strength of hands." Man, these days he ain't kidding about that. as witnessed by the turnout at Daily Plaza earlier this week. We'll get into that a little bit later here. But I want to start the show off a little bit differently. Katy, you and I talked a little bit about this last night when we were on the phone. I saw something that it saddened me. It really makes me wonder about humanity anymore. We're recording this show on Friday, November 5th, 2021. It's pretty chilly here in Michigan. It's been in the 40s all week as far as high temperatures go. And there's people sleeping on the sidewalk as I'm driving on Pearl Street underneath US 131. And I looked at those people and I just had to ask myself, can't we do a better job of taking care of our most vulnerable people? The answer obviously is yes. Why aren't we doing it?
But they won't let us. They won't let us.
Who's they?
The people with the money. The people that own the police. They won't. Literally and specifically, the people who own the police. The people who control the police. And I can tell you that because I've been a city housing commissioner for 4.5 years. My mom, I went years without driving through the city because my mom was under the bridge. You know, I would worry about seeing her on a sidewalk, and that was why I joined the Housing Commission. That was why I go in there every week every meeting, every other month when they will let us have a meeting, which that was what we argued about last time, was the fact that we're meeting every other month while people are sleeping on a sidewalk. But every time I bring it up, they tell me that that's not our job. It's not our job to worry about homeless people.
Well, what is their job?
To help developers. That's literally what their job is. That's what they will tell you it is, and they're unabashed about it. They are transferring the entire website from .gov to .org. A story came out in Time magazine yesterday. Kalamazoo, city of Kalamazoo, talking about the housing situation. 2 billionaires basically made a deal with the city that if they don't raise property taxes, that they're going to fund the city for the money that they need instead of taking the property taxes. But that gives them the control over what happens to that money. Mm-hmm. And it's going to end up going to build more developments, more new buildings that are going to sit empty or only be filled with billionaires or people that can afford $3,000 a month rent. They're going to use our money to build it. They're going to leave the state. They're going to take all the profits and have a manager slumming it And what are we going to do?
And they're gonna win whichever way it goes. They win if the property taxes go up because people are not going to be able to afford them.
Yep.
They're going to lose their homes, and guess what? Developers going to come in and buy that property.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. They can use our money to buy it right now. They get public money. They're taking the public vouchers from housing commissions like mine, attaching it to theirs, so that people don't have to pay the rent. We're paying the rent. We're building the building, and they're just putting the money in their pockets and going home with it. They're offshoring it. Mm-hmm. And we don't know who they are. That's the hardest part for me. I sit in these meetings and I ask them, are these national interests? Are these nonprofits? Are these private companies, even from America?
Well, I'm Canadian. My father's Canadian. So I spent a lot of time in Canada. And we were in Montreal 4 or 5 years ago. It's a big city. There's no homeless in Montreal. There's no homeless in Toronto.
You won't see them sleeping on the side of the road. There's people that might live with their friends. It might be a different level of homeless, I think.
Are we that more evil here in the United States?
Yes, absolutely.
We are that more just oblivious here. And I think
there's conservatives in Canada.
Yeah.
There's knuckleheads up there.
Yeah. They are eradicating empathy and humanity and sympathies here. By the wealth gap, though, will do that, because if you don't suffer, if you're far enough removed from suffering or from people who are suffering, then ultimately it's easier to close your eyes to it. You don't feel it. You don't remember the feeling.
Speaking pragmatically, though, where do these city planners think, and I'm using this loosely, this human refuge is going to end up? That you can throw your leaves in the middle of the street and it blows over. You just can't keep moving these people around.
I said at some point, it's going to come to you. It's going to be your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews. They're going to need help. And they're going to come to you. And what are you going to say? You're not going to be able to direct them to the mission like you could have, because you ruined that.
That's a personal level, and that's very, very true. But where do they put these people? You just can't keep hiding them out on the islands in Grand River.
They are not trying to. They don't.
The people themselves
do not care.
hide themselves.
Right. That's it. You've seen the encampments. Anywhere where there's still trees, that's where they're trying to hide, because they want privacy. They want to go somewhere and not be in people's way. That's not what anybody wants, right? But as far as the people who won't give them a place to live, and the people that are, again, I see us building huge buildings, 100 single individual units, some of them, for people 55 and older. They want to have daycare there for children under the age of 2. So what that tells me is that they want to get the very old and the very young off the streets, because they can watch the middle-aged people die and suffer and blame them for their own demise. That's the only thing that helped us before, is when there'd be enough kids on the streets or enough old people on the streets that somebody would come through and be like, we can't do this anymore. What are we doing? Somebody had a parent or a grandma, and they would find it in them to fix it. But what are we going to do when that's not the case? When we have all spent the whole time campaigning against jobs and companies and work because we're so over it, and we're just human beings that are tired, and we're doing what we need to do to have mental health. And then when they take away our jobs all out from under us, they're going to go, you guys didn't even want jobs. This is your fault. We offered them. Nobody wanted to work. And now you guys have to starve. Deal with it. And will they just round us up and put us in jail? Probably. Ultimately.
Well, it's a double whammy.
Which the idea that there's not enough jobs is total bull. We just had a story last week. A guy applied 58 different places in a month's time. One callback he got. And then they tried the bait and switch on him.
Help me understand how there's a worker shortage when we have eliminated half of the hours for most companies. You drive around at night, nothing is open now. You can't get fast food after midnight. Nothing is open. Myers, I don't believe, is even 24 hours anymore.
Isn't it?
No,
nothing.
Meyer closes at midnight. They've been doing that for cleaning, not for service.
Everybody's got a reason. Everybody, but don't tell me it's an accident.
Oh no,
that everybody ended up closing at night.
No. This has been since the pandemic.
That's my point.
I have a suspicion that Meyer will get back to 24 hours as soon as this pandemic calms down.
I would like to,
because here's why. There's too many people that shop at night, me being one of them.
They don't need our money anymore, Darren. That's the thing.
They don't need it, but they want it.
No.
That's the thing.
They want us dead.
Katy, rich people can't get enough money. It's a sickness. It's an it's mental. as somebody with 4 diagnosed mental illnesses sitting right here talking to everybody, I can tell you, hoarding wealth is mental illness. Period. End of story. They can't get enough. They don't want enough. They want it all, like Carlin says. They want it all, and they're going to get it all.
They're printing it. They got it.
Yeah.
They're the ones making it.
That still doesn't matter. They want more.
More.
Andrea True, more. How do you like it?
There's no doubt about it. We're the it's envious to be too greedy. That's.
But why aren't if that were like why aren't they open now? My point is that half of the service industry jobs were just eliminated. They were just eliminated.
A lot of the businesses, I'll tell you, have been honest, and they say, "Oh, we can't get workers." No, you can't get workers because you don't want to pay your workers.
Well, they don't even if they did, how could they? They're not open enough hours to have a full-time job there.
Yeah, they make more money without that.
Walker Roadhouse right now is hiring for a hostess. Do you know what their offer is? $10 an hour, 2 to 3 shifts a week. They don't even open until 4 o'clock.
Yeah, and
who is going to work in a job where you might clear $40 a week?
Yeah, the 70% or the big $17 an hour at McDonald's.
That's up to, and it's only for general managers, and it's 20 hours a week, so they don't have to give you insurance.
Yep.
You're going to have to get another job, but you're not going to be able to because the hours at both of them aren't going to work together. And keep in mind, if everything is closed at night, how do you work 2 jobs?
Yeah, see, and the new job report came out yesterday, right? 500-some thousand, and of course the Stobbs and Dems are, silly happy about it.
Yeah, yay.
They're not telling you that's 18 hours, though.
Right. We've all got more jobs, and it's half the money we were making before the freaking pandemic.
I always wonder, back, say it was 1862, and they had a jobs market report. Would they report all the slaves' jobs? Would they say, hell, we're down to 1.5% unemployment?
You know what? That's a very good point. If they had to report like they do now to the SEC, the Securities and Exchange Commission, I wonder if they would report that and fluff the numbers.
Because, the comparison I'm making is that if you're working 18 hours a day, it's called a job, right? It's a job, so it shows up on the 500,000, but it's inadequate to live on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a miserable job.
Yep, and you don't get to live because you're there all the time.
And if you're a slave, it is a job, right?
I mean, you're working.
Think of the overtime.
You're working.
Right? No, but I want to go back to the specific physical body laying in the street.
Yes.
Underneath a bench because the bench has spikes on it so that they can't lay on the
If they didn't rip the bench out and just take it.
But I think there is a tributary that rolls into this like a wave, and that is the exorbitant medical cost. The quickest way to get to that bench is through medical charges that hit every 65-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
My experience, I always was a fully insured educator, but slowly that insurance has dwindled down higher and higher every year. You got to go. Now it's almost $1,000. You got to go through $1,000 before the damn insurance
kicks in.
Yeah, and for most people, it's $3,000 at a minimum.
And then once you go past a certain point, then there's a donut hole where you're having to pay X amount until you get out of the donut hole.
But you're actually paying anyway the whole time with your copays and everything else, and your prescriptions and your stupid. I had to pay a deductible that was more than my rent to not go to the doctor.
Yeah. So you know that my trailer burnt down and all my prescription burnt up.
Yep.
I have been on the phone for hours trying to get my insurance company to give me back my coverage. They won't replenish the tablets. They think I ran into the fire like Superman, got the tablets, and have been selling them.
They're not a controlled substance. Like, come on, like they're not.
Oh, it's just an excuse.
Yeah.
It's just excuse number 35.
That black market for Entresto is just something else. Or not Entresto, Eliquis. Yeah, my mom takes Entresto.
But it's $700 a month. It's a tenth of that in Canada.
Yeah.
A tenth in Canada. So Canada not only has low housing, a plethora of housing, you can afford to live there and not get – we're like sheep. The wool gets up to a certain length, and it gets fully mature at about 60. So the classic car, the cottage up north, the little savings you have, the money for the grandkids, That's the wool that's fully developed by the time you're 65. And the medical industry says it's time to start shearing. And by the time they lay him on the ground, they got it all. It's gone.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yet,
and that's
if you go to Finland, you won't see a homeless person. They eliminated homelessness by actually providing housing, by providing stipends for these people to pay rent.
See, these are the things too that I can't get on board with. Even the government solutions are such a freaking sham every damn time. I can't. I'm so tired of being negative all the time.
Here's the solution.
But come on, man. It's not something they would do. Bezos ain't moving into a tiny house. If it's so great, why isn't he living in one?
Here's the solutions that I'm getting sick and tired of. I'm sick and tired of, and I've said this on the show in the past. I'm going to be consistent. I am sick and tired of everything having to be religious. Oh, you want a place to stay? Hey, you need to join in prayer.
Yeah.
No. F*** you. F*** your prayer. I'm sick and tired of it.
No, I totally agree.
I am beyond sick and tired of it. Have been for
the most American
50
thing I
years.
ever heard, because that's why they came here, right? Separation of church and state.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
well, have you heard some of the QAnon speeches recently? It's all Jesus. No, the evangelicals have pulled the skirt up of QAnon and said, I like it. They're joining him like crazy.
That's the ultimate ending here, is a holy war.
They're joining, they're borrowing the terminology.
Meanwhile, if they actually read the scriptures of Jesus, he'd shun those people.
And if he was even...
And did?
I mean...
If he really existed?
If any of that even happened.
Even if he didn't exist, there's some good stuff in there.
There are some good stories, like some good examples. I will give you that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You scare the hell out of your kids reading that book.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the guy
the most violent book ever wrote by man.
The most genocidal book, Chomsky says.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really, it seriously is. There has never been a more brutal book about enemies. The Germans didn't take the bodies of their enemy and have a Fuhrer back in Berlin say, grind their bones into dust. That's what I don't want anything left of the French, of the Irish, of the English, of the Americans. The Jews had to, God got pissed off because they weren't ground up enough. Read it.
And the best part about this is that I was just reading a physics paper talking about bone ash and how it can be used to separate gold.
Is this not crazy?
Yeah.
I swear to God, that ain't a coincidence.
No,
but you talk about good stories. God gets mad that Moses didn't grind up his enemies enough.
Wow.
So he's going to go and take care of Moses. But Moses' girlfriend or his wife, I don't know which, maybe a concubine, she gets on the phone with God.
Slut Mary.
And gets on the phone with God.
She goes, can we do something? Can we work something out here?
Direct dial.
So this is what they worked out.
Okay.
She's going to sneak and cut the head of his penis off.
Okay.
And burn that to God. I kid you not. QAnon looks like smart academics compared to this.
This is true.
Jesus.
If you're raised to believe that kind of
Stephen King would never have had that creativity and sickness.
Oh.
Speaking of the QAnon.
That's why they mutilate every infant to this day.
That's still, and I didn't know the story behind it.
Because God's enemies weren't ground up on knife.
So
go for 4,000 years of amputations at the end of a male penis because God wanted to be satisfied.
And we call it circumcision.
But he's a good God. Yeah. Good God, he's a monster.
Yeah. Apparently, this story was written to appease a lot of pedophilia for a really long time, I'm assuming. I don't know if this was always a surgical procedure or...
Nothing.
But looking at the church in hindsight, I would have to guess there was a little bit more to it than just their snip snap.
Nothing would shock me. But since you mentioned QAnon,
here we go.
Daily Plaza earlier this week, apparently several hundred of the cuckoos wandered around waiting for the reoccurrence, the rebirth. He has risen, folks. John F. Kennedy Jr.
That great conservative to join Trump.
to put Trump back into power and rejoin John Sr., Jackie. Somebody posted on Twitter that I saw that supposedly we were going to go back to the Gregorian calendar and it was going to turn into October 20th, that there would be 2 Halloweens. I don't know if they're joking about it or if it's hell, you
20th.
can't tell.
No, which calendar was it?
I believe the Gregorian calendar. So November 3rd was going to, or 2nd or 3rd, whatever day it was that they gathered, the gathering of the cuckoos.
Well, this time of the year.
The calendar was supposed to roll back to October 20th.
Yeah, see, this is where A&P always brought the fruitcakes out. It was in early November for the season. For the seasons.
Are there any A&P stores left in the country?
I don't
think
know,
you
but
got to
we
go to
always
the
got
East
one.
Coast.
It had the big canister, see? And that I keep my marbles in there after we'd eat the fruitcake. But my grandmother would say, oh, it's November the 5th. I'll bet A&P's got the nutty-covered fruitcake this year.
A nutty-covered fruitcake. Oh, my God. Yeah, so...
But, see, they set the bar so high for crazy. You can be certifiably nuts and almost look normal now because of the extremity of their craziness.
Well, I think that's the plan. I think
you
that's the
slobber
plan
a little
because
bit, you blow bubbles, no problem.
Well, and imagine the reactions that are happening to this in hindsight. Like, I just keep thinking of how this plays out in court later. When you've got these kind of crazy people, right? And then you've got people on the other side, and you're going back and forth, and that just you all end up looking really bad if you get sucked into that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And
Except
I feel like
if they're in the court in Minnesota where the guy
they won't end up looking bad.
You can only call them arsonists or
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Radical liberals. You can call them that.
Oh, that was in
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Yeah, the Wisconsin Kyle Rittenhouse.
Oh, that made me angry too.
Talking about crazy courts.
Speaking of courts, did you see the January 6th traitor that said that she's blonde, so she ain't going to jail?
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, I ain't
she's
going.
White and blonde.
White and blonde. I ain't going to jail. Wrong. 2 months. I'd give her 2 decades.
Nope, she is gonna. I'll tell you right now. She is going to be very, very rich. She is. She's going to be rich, and she's going to have a hell of a following.
She'll write a book.
And she'll write a book.
Yeah, they'll have
and
a broad,
she is going to get a ton of votes for the Republicans out of this.
She'll do the circuit on Fox Propaganda Channel, Newsmax,
she is
and OAN.
playing to those people like a hero right now. And what she says, if you're them and you believe the things they do, which is that she just walked down there and went in for 2 seconds and this and that, and she thinks she's a patriot. And, really what she's getting arrested for, and this is what the judge told her, was that you said you weren't going to go to jail and you have a big following. I think we need to show these people that we take this kind of thing seriously. We're going to give you 60 days. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
she's on her way.
She's
been launched.
She spent more of her letter telling the judge about her social media following than about feeling bad.
I'd like to launch her.
But that's
she's
the thing.
into the conservative stratosphere of idiocy.
Oh yeah, but they're rewarding her, and she's going to help because she's pretty.
Yep.
And when you listen to her say it, and she's like, well, really, it's a travesty that I'm getting put in jail for speaking my opinion. That's what they're bringing it down to. This is First Amendment. And that plays really well because the First Amendment actually is a good thing.
I'd like to launch her. Think History of the World Part 1.
Well, then you've got
my people, I love them. Paul!
Speaking, though, of craziness in the courts, what do we got in Crackerland down in, where's it at? 11 people on the jury in Georgia. Out of 12.
The Ahmaud Arbery trial that's coming up.
They showed the jury that had the guy from Chicago that was killed, the little boy, the open casket.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about.
It wasn't
Are you talking about Tamir Rice?
No. This is way back. The mother insisted to have an open casket. Well, they showed the jury where it's been proven now the woman lied, said that this guy had winked at a white woman.
Oh, okay.
Emmett Till?
Emmett Till. So they had these crackers all lined up, the jury, and then they showed 3 pictures of the contemporary cracker jury down in Georgia. They look like
exactly
clones.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
bib overhauls. No, honest to God.
Oh,
Straw
yeah?
matted in the side of their hair.
A jury of your peers. Come on.
And here's the thing. The judge knows it, and he can't do a thing about it because there's no mechanism within Georgia law to for the judge to
Georgia
remove
law,
a jury.
Georgia small. Look at Michigan law.
Yeah.
What do? They're the ones tampering with the jury. So what the hell does the law matter?
It's true.
What does the law matter? Because the guys that are supposed to enforce it are the ones breaking it.
There's no law.
Yep.
There's
That's
no law of
true.
anything. Gravity's on the way out next.
Gravity's on the way out next. Like I said, I'd like to see him float in space. Well, even though the Patriots usually float in the toilet bowl, as mentioned last week on the show.
It's like pick your evil. You know, we can either.
Well, the guy in Minnesota got the Bible out yesterday, was teaching a lesson to make a point, use the Bible. In a federal court. Yeah, to prove his point. And he's upset that the media is holding him accountable and listening to his words. So he actually used a parable from the Bible. It wasn't the foreskin parable.
No.
I had a feeling.
Yeah.
So did Moses.
Yeah. Hey, real quick before we get into our next topic here, a couple of things to cover from last week. The Hillsdale College newsletter that I could not remember the name of, Imprimus. That was the one that was always advertised on the rest of the story. What's his name?
What the hell? And now you know the rest of the
Paul Harvey.
story.
Yeah, Paul Harvey.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was advertised on Paul Harvey News and Comment and on the rest of the story. The other thing, we've been talking about outer space the last couple of shows, maybe 3 or 4. I did do some digging. No single nation can claim ownership of outer space, according to a 1967 treaty signed.
They signed a treaty?
They signed a treaty in 1967.
Well, they're definitely
Space
colonizing
Treaty.
it. So maybe they're working together, the UN. That would make sense.
It would. It definitely would. Oh, and we have an update from a story that we were talking about last week. This is John Tunison writing for MLive. This is dated October 29th out of Hillsdale County. Authorities have recovered voting equipment that went missing after a rural township clerk in Hillsdale County was barred from administering the November 2nd election. Adams Township Clerk Stephanie Scott refused to allow legally required maintenance and accuracy testing on voting machines, leading to the ruling about the upcoming election. Hillsdale County Clerk Marnie Cass has said she suspected Adams Township Clerk Stephanie Scott was in possession of a tablet that contained sensitive election information. Cass said that Scott did not turn over the tablet, described as the brains of the voting machine. That Scott said that she was consulting her attorney when asked to relinquish it. On social media, Scott has promoted election conspiracy theories. They're all bullshit. None of them true. Might as well just call it what it is. I'm going to be blunt. I don't care. If you don't like it, turn the channel. Turn it off for good if you don't like what I say. In a release issued late in the day, Friday, October 29th, by Michigan Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson's office, officials said state police recovered the missing election equipment from the Adams Township Hall earlier in the day. It was not immediately clear if the equipment was at the Township Hall all along or somewhere else and then just placed there. Tracy Wimmer, Secretary of State spokesperson, said an investigation is ongoing as to whether the equipment shows any tampering. She said the matter is currently the subject of an ongoing criminal investigation. She planned no further comment. So we will see. We will follow that story. In the meantime, we did have an election on November 2nd and did not go well for Democrats. They lost the governorship in Virginia. And was it a surprise? It was to them, but they're in denial.
Yeah.
Are they in denial? I really need to know. Are they in denial or are they doing it on purpose? Because
that's a good point.
It seems very on purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not like people haven't told them and warned them and begged them and protested and, I don't know, like everything we could possibly do. And they are doing exactly what they know will get them the result that they're getting. So I feel like we got to stop pretending like it's an accident.
They campaigned for Manchin in West Virginia, the establishment. There are really attractive progressives running in the primary.
It is so.
They made sure Manchin got in.
It is so obvious that they have a Republican agenda.
Supposedly castrating Biden's agenda every day, right? I can't get off of the foreskin thing, I guess.
Yeah. Well, let me give you this story. This is CBS News coverage of the election. Republicans in Washington exulted in Republican Glenn Youngkin's victory in the Virginia governor's race Tuesday over former Governor Terry McAuliffe, and the surprisingly close race in New Jersey, which CBS projected late Wednesday night as a win for incumbent Democratic Governor Phil Murphy. House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy said Wednesday that, quote, today is a wake-up call for Washington Democrats to abandon the partisanship, extremist agenda of Washington-based programs that cost trillions of dollars and that nobody even wants, end of quote. Well, he's apparently not reading the same polls that I'm reading, because people want this stuff. He went on to predict bigger losses for Democrats in the midterms next year. He said of those House races, quote, it'll be more than 70 Democrats that will be competitive. There's many that are going to lose their races based on walking off a cliff from Nancy Pelosi pushing them, end of quote. The New Jersey race, I guess, was super tight. It's even tighter in Buffalo, and I really want to talk about what's going on there, because this is still ongoing as far as I know. So in Buffalo, New York, in the mayoral race, I've got this from Syracuse.com. This is the Associated Press. Buffalo's four-term mayor, Byron Brown, declared victory in his write-in campaign as early results showed him with a likely lead over Democratic Socialist India Walton, the political newcomer who beat him in the Democratic primary. The Associated Press remained unable to call the race because election officials have yet to tally how many of at least 34,000 write-in votes cast in the election went to Brown, whose name did not appear on the ballot. But Walton conceded Wednesday, saying she was unlikely to catch up. Brown, who had asked supporters to put his name down on their ballots after his primary loss in June, declared himself the winner of a record fifth term. At his campaign headquarters late Tuesday, Brown said, quote, the people chose 4 more years of the Brown administration, end of quote. And the supporters chanted 4 more years. He said, the people chose one of the greatest comeback stories in our history, end of quote. Walton, a 39-year-old nurse and community activist, had sought to become the first woman to lead New York's second-largest city with promises to uplift residents left behind in the city's resurgence. In a statement, Walton said, quote, we fought as hard as we possibly could. We left everything on the field, and I believe today as fervently as I ever have that the hour will come when we will finally draw down power to the everyday people of this city and build the safe, healthy Buffalo we all need and deserve, end of quote. Yeah, so the guy loses in the primary and then decides, I'm going to just do a write-in vote. Haven't we heard this before?
Well, I didn't think write-in votes worked. I thought that was a joke. How do you do it? Isn't the other guy Schumer's pick? Didn't Schumer back him, and he can't even get him? We're talking the head of the –
yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Well, look at Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She beat her opponent in the primary who had been in office for, 30 years?
Yeah.
What does he do? Oh, I'm going to run as –
People don't want these old crusty stuff. The real thrust of the young vote. You know, what's his name? Carville. Remember the old Hillary associate buddy, Bill and Hillary?
Well, I'll get to him in our off-the-cuff in our Hammer Time segment.
Yeah.
I'll get to him in a minute here.
I hope you hit this note that he's blaming the woke generation.
That's what it is. We'll get to that in Hammer
Great
Time.
minds think alike, because I did not know you had that on deck.
Yep, got that on Hammer Time in just a little bit here. But back to the Virginia race. I'm going to repeat something that we've said on this show for a number of years now. When you give conservatives the choice between voting for Republican light, which would be conservative Democrat, corporate Democrat, and the other choice is real Republican, they're going to vote real Republican every single time. Democrats, I got news for you. And Katy, maybe you're onto something. Maybe they are throwing it. But if they want to start winning, you better start going further to the left, because the rest of this country is. Good majority of it is. Just look at it, poll after poll on every subject there is. Whether it's abortion, wages.
Well, if they want to start winning
housing.
seats, that's what they have to do. Mm-hmm. If they want to start winning their agenda, though, which I'm suspecting, if their agenda is the same as the Republicans, so I think.
And I also real quickly want to mention this race also in New Jersey. This is the Associated Press dated November 4th out of Trenton. New Jersey's longtime state Senate president, Democrat Steve Sweeney, lost re-election, falling to a Republican newcomer who, do you want to guess who? He spent under $200 to win the race. The guy's name is Edward Durr. He's a furniture company truck driver and political newcomer.
He was a Republican?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, when you don't have anybody in politics resisting your agenda, it's really cheap to win. Obviously, that's a really good example.
I think when you said Katy may have something, I think she really does. We've often said we don't worry about the two-party system. We only have one party, right? We'd like two parties. They're working together.
Yeah.
You remember the classic Steinbeck book where they're trying to sell the pearl?
Was it Grapes? No.
Well, Grapes of Wrath, but the pearl where they're going from store to store and they realize, hey, really, they're all connected.
Yeah.
They just call ahead and say, we're coming with a pearl, so you're going to give me $1 more.
Yep.
So they go to the priest and they go, they find the priestess too. The whole environment is connected.
Yes.
So
exactly. I mean, let's stop and think for a second. If you go look at Joe Biden's campaign headquarters, it's in Delaware.
Yep.
Right next to the DuPont golf course. The DuPont Country Club.
Well, hell.
I mean, it's
Delaware
not.
is a corporate.
It's one of the global tax havens.
Yeah.
One of the biggest ones, aside from now what we just found out, North Dakota, I think is the other one.
South Dakota.
Yep. But yeah, that's all I have to see is, okay, I get to vote for this evil or this evil. And they're sure pretending like they're playing both sides of it. Mm-hmm. But I'm starting to understand that even their financial interests are completely combined. Everything is combined. They're all in the same. Mutual wealth funds are there for a reason. Now they can all invest on something together, right? And nobody realizes it because that's just a mutual wealth fund. It's not like a...
Steinbeck did it 80 years ago.
Yeah.
Because then the priest goes out to the house, then the doctor goes out to the house. Yeah. And this poor Native American family realizes, hey, they're all working together.
Yeah. And I just read a quote from him the other day that said that why he wrote that book. Did you see it?
The Pearl? Grapes of Wrath.
The Grapes of Wrath. So that those corrupt, I can't remember what he called them, corrupt something. He basically called them trash, so that he could call them out for what they were doing to people. And it's just like, oh, that's such a good quote. I want to find it now.
Well, they won't let them be taught any longer in
We'll have to find that.
School. So he must have hit some buttons.
Right. That's how you know.
We get Ayn Rand taught, but we don't get Steinbeck.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. We'll probably talk a little bit more about elections here a little bit later on in the show if we got time. I can't
wait to hear your Carville thing.
Well, should we go ahead and just get right into it? We might as well.
Stop. Hammer time.
Oh, yeah, it's hammer time. It is time to drop the hammer on the douchebag of the week. And this week we've got two winners, so every time we have two winners, Wade Garrett's got to chime in.
The double douche.
Who is that guy?
Gentlemen,
Wade Garrett.
Holy sh**. Exactly right.
Oh, boy. Winner number one this week, the Raging Cajun James Carville. I have this story. This is Joseph Choi writing for The Hill. This is dated November 3rd. Democratic political strategist James Carville blamed his party's recent losses and weak performance in state elections on stupid wokeness on Wednesday. PBS NewsHour host Judy Woodruff asked Carville what went wrong for the Democratic Party in the Virginia gubernatorial race in which Republican Glenn Youngkin beat former Governor Terry McAuliffe. Here's what he said, quote, "What went wrong is just stupid wokeness. Don't just look at Virginia and New Jersey. Look at Long Island. Look at Buffalo. Look at Minneapolis. Even look at Seattle, Washington. I mean, this defund the police lunacy. This take Abraham Lincoln's name off of schools. I mean that. People see that. It just really has a suppressive effect all across the country on Democrats. Some of these people need to go to a woke detox center or something. They're expressing a language that people just don't use, and there's a backlash and a frustration at that. End of quote.
Huh?
Yeah.
Like, somebody needs to take a nap. I think it's past his bedtime.
Well, he is married to a conservative, so
they go to the oldest, crusty establishment Dem to bail him out in this revealing moment, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Could you get one worse? Seriously.
Yeah.
I mean, I agree that the defund the police thing is crap. I'm all for complete abolishment.
Yep.
Absolute abolishment.
Absolutely.
No more police. Take their guns and their money and their title. All of it. Gone.
Yeah, that we didn't mention that result. Minneapolis voters voted to keep the police. It was on the ballot to eliminate the police department and go to a public safety department, which we mentioned on this show. What's the point? Because guess who they're going to hire for public safety?
Yeah.
The same officers that were on the police force.
Because the police were public safety at one point.
Yeah.
Look at Kalamazoo. Kalamazoo is a public safety department. I believe Wyoming is a public safety department.
Is that what they call it? It should be a damn military because it is.
It used to be. They ended up separating the two because it was police and fire combined, not anymore.
Right, and they've done that pretty much across the board, I think, except for maybe Ada.
Philadelphia just dropped all minor traffic infractions. A policeman cannot stop. So if they're going to shoot you now, it's got to be something major.
But let's be honest, have they done that? Have they been stopping anybody since COVID? I have not seen people pulled over. Very rarely. Only if there were major issues.
I've seen people pulled over.
Have you? I have not
God,
seen as many as you used to. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought.
But supposedly that would minimize the amount of people, shot for a taillight burnout.
Yeah, and it would supposedly stop people from low-level crimes. But it's just going to free up their time to go directly to their house or to do.
I was going to say it's going to have to be a little more sophisticated.
Yeah, well, and it is getting sophisticated because they got all these cameras. Somebody's got to be watching them. Mm-hmm. Who's listening to all our conversations now that they've bugged us all?
Mm-hmm. Democratic New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy narrowly eked out a re-election victory on Wednesday, another indication of Democrats' diminishing strength in state elections.
He what? He didn't lose.
No,
he barely won. Okay.
Barely won.
Yeah.
Good.
Carville said that suburbanites in Virginia and New Jersey pulled away from such wokeness. He pointed out that Youngkin never ran any ads against President Biden and suggested that the Republican candidate had simply allowed Democrats to, quote, pull the pin and watch the grenade go off, end of quote. Carville added, quote, we've got to change this and not be about changing dictionaries and change laws. These faculty lounge people that sit around mulling about I don't know what, they're not working, end of quote. Carville has decried wokeness in the past, telling Vox's Sean Illing earlier this year that it was a problem. At the time, he said, quote, wokeness is a problem and everyone knows it. It's hard to talk to anybody today, and I talk to lots of people in the Democratic Party who don't say this, but they don't want to say it out loud.
Can somebody tell these people, give them an urban dictionary or something, because I don't think that word means what he thinks that word means.
No, I agree.
Nothing he's saying is making any sense to me right now, and the kids do not understand.
He must be getting Obama's dictionary out, because Obama started in on it too. Didn't we give Obama douchebag of the week for that?
Yeah. The line is drawn, though. He doesn't say anything about the tearing down of Confederate generals or the clarification of history, the 1619 Project or CRT. Really, the foundation of wokeness is the research that's been done by doctors of history.
Knowing the actual history. Yeah. Absolutely.
So how far does this take Abraham Lincoln's name down? Oh, that's pretty extreme. But how about the historical truth issue, James?
Can we discuss that?
Yeah.
I don't see anybody asking for Lincoln's name to come down. Have you read any stories?
I haven't heard anything about that. No.
Here's the thing. When those things are happening, it's generally somebody throwing a wedge in and trying to get the argument going to make it worse. It's instigation tactics.
Yep.
Every time.
Provocateurs.
Because
absolutely.
And he'd be a good one.
And go all the way back to the war, and that the Confederate flag is the one thing that people have thrown a fit about in Mississippi. It was Mississippi, I believe, that had it for their state flag, and that was a huge issue there. And after I learned that and started looking at what's happening here, I'm going, they're totally rehashing this on purpose.
Yeah. Let's not even get into schools having to change their mascot names.
Oh, yeah, and that's the same thing, because once they saw what happened with the Confederate flag, now they can bring this to and that's the first place they're going. Notice that with the school boards, not only with the mascot thing, with the mask thing, everything, because if they can tear apart people at that point, if you can tear mothers apart, if you can come into somebody's neighborhood and get personal and offend them or risk their children's safety, they will never forgive you. You will never fix it. That's why they're coming for the schools.
That's a very good point.
Yeah, and education right now is in the limelight like never before.
That's exactly why I see it
Carville
now.
have said the book that claims that the first slaves appeared in Jamestown in 1619. It was a Dutch ship that sold slaves. They didn't have anybody to work their fields. That whole 1619 project is pointing out it did not start in 1800. Slavery started in North America in 1619. So if that's
long
a
before
fact,
that, but okay.
Yeah, is that a fact, James? Or, if it's a fact, should it be espoused in an education class?
Right.
Or should we continue to live our head up our butt historically? Which way do you want to go? He takes, like Darren said.
But if people asked him that question, has a journalist or a reporter, anybody asked him that?
No.
That's the thing. What world are we in now where nobody does? Nobody actually interviews these people with real questions.
No, they don't. No,
they never. You can't even get somebody in front that would ask them that question.
Canada has been flying a flag half-mast since they dug up the first grave. We had the Tulsa discovery.
7,000 they found now.
Yeah, what was our reaction as a nation? Did anybody even know?
No, most people
Imagine
hear about
the months and months of promoting a flag at half-mast because it's such an atrocity. And the Canadians are disgusted. They're sick. Hell, we don't care.
They built a resort on the the native graveyards here. They built a beach resort. I mean, it's Spoonville. Look up Spoonville. It's what they used to call it. Now it's right there by Mactaw Bay. But
wow. Oh, so once again, winner number 1, James Carville. Winner number 2, second week in a row for Bill Maher, the limousine liberal. $140 million net worth, baby. This is Anders Anglesey writing for Newsweek. This is Newsweek covering this. October 31st. Talk show host Bill Maher railed against COVID restrictions and declared the pandemic to be over. The Real Time with Bill Maher host discussed ongoing pandemic measures with a panel on Friday night and said people no longer need to wear masks. He said this, quote, "Just resume living. I know some people seem to not want to give up on the wonderful pandemic, but you know what? It's over. There's always going to be a variant. You shouldn't have to wear a mask. I haven't had a meeting with my staff since March of 2020. Why?" End of quote.
So him and Aaron Rodgers hang out together, huh?
he's immunized.
Oh, he's immunized.
I think that means he already got it once. Now he's got it again, so apparently it didn't work that good.
I'll be controversial since we're talking
Right.
about Aaron Rodgers. I'll be sorry about your Packers.
Hey.
Oh, you like the Packers?
My son loves the Packers,
Oh,
but
okay.
that's his thing.
Katy, I gifted Katy 2 Green Bay Packers Burger Chef glasses from the 1979 collection.
Oh, wow.
It's awesome.
Seriously. That is awesome.
Seriously.
My dad was a huge Packers fan, which is why my son's a big Packers fan.
All right, yeah. That's a great franchise.
I'm sure Aaron's probably wishing that he's hosting Jeopardy right now. But I'll be controversial. I don't care. If it comes to find out that he's been lying, kick him out of the league. Permanent. Lifetime.
It's been found out. He lied at jeopardizing the health of other players in other teams and in his own team.
Yeah. Well, let me go back to the story. Maher continued, quote, "Also, vaccine, mask. Pick one. You got to pick. You can't make me mask if I had the vaccine." End of quote. The host then turned to Senator Chris Coons, Democrat of Delaware, and said it was Democrat lawmakers who continue to enforce COVID-related restrictions and mandates. Maher added, quote, "I travel in every state now back on the road, and the red states are a joy, and the blue states are a pain in the ass for no reason." End of quote.
Pain in the ass.
Wow.
Forget your lungs. You got a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
Does COVID affect your ass like that? That's what I'd like to know. In response, Senator Coons said, quote, "There's still a lot of countries that are very minimally vaccinated because if a variant develops out in the world that is able to defeat the vaccine, we are all the way back to the beginning. So in the United States and most of the Western world, we're ready to be done with this, but we're not done until the world is safe, and we're not safe as a world until the world is vaccinated. End of quote. Did you catch that word salad?
Yeah. I try to keep up the ping pong ball there. I couldn't keep my eye on it. But the thing is, Michigan is had the second highest rate of infection per day yesterday in the United States.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard people are saying that work at the hospital that they don't understand what's going on because looking at the percentages, looking at where we were last year, looking at everything else, they feel like we should have been shut down a long time ago. But nobody's going to shut anything down now from what I can see.
No. And we should, but we're not going to because
my old job
the economy has to come first.
You guys, my old job that fired me is about to reopen for dine-in service this week.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Now that things are getting bad again, they've strategically decided this is a good time to reopen. They've been closed for dine-in the entire time.
Why not?
Wow.
Yeah.
While many states across the U.S. have fully reopened, many continue to have some forms of restrictions or mandates in place. This includes red states such as Texas, where Governor Greg Abbott's executive order includes an exception for nursing homes and assisted living facilities that may continue to require documentation of a resident's vaccination status, according to AARP. Other states, such as Democratic stronghold Hawaii, have stricter guidelines in place, with Mayor Mitch Roth signing an order on October 15th that expanded gathering limits on the Big Island to 50 people for organized recreational activities. On October 22nd, Kansas, a red state, required unvaccinated people or those who have not had COVID within the past 6 months to quarantine if they've traveled to Alaska on or before October 7th or attended an out-of-state gathering of more than 500 people where people did not maintain social distancing. So, yeah, Bill Maher wants it to be over. It's over. No, it ain't, Bill. I want it to be over, but it's not. I was supposed to meet up with a longtime friend of mine. I'll mention Mary Harrington, who used to be a co-host on our sister show, Women Libs Radio. Supposed to meet up with her today. Text me this morning. Hey, our former roommate showed up Sunday. He called us last night. He's got COVID. We think we're out of the window, but we don't want to take any chances. So there goes that. Another friend of ours, longtime listener of this show, got news from a coworker. Her husband got COVID. Now they're worried about it. And he's got underlying conditions.
Yeah, from the research I've read, the vaccines supposedly seem to be weakening around the 6-month point.
That's what they've said.
And that's why they've had the boosters available. So that's just something to keep in mind if you haven't had your booster yet.
Yeah, please go get your booster. If you haven't had your first shot, please go get it. Please. Just do it for me, please.
Have there any stats on people who are vaccinated that die once they're reinfected?
There have been some, but they're not really releasing them on a massive scale. I'm seeing small little charts or mentions.
Breakthrough deaths are minimal.
They
absolutely
are
minimal.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the thing is,
and it's usually underlying conditions involved as well with those, from what I've seen.
Very true. Yeah. And here's the other thing, though. We should not be just focusing on deaths. We need to be focusing on long-term illnesses, people that are long haulers, that have been in the hospital for months and months because they can't shake it. Yeah. We got to talk about the people that have had to have double lung transplants. These are now people. Let me be very specific about this. If you get COVID and your lungs are damaged to the point that you have to have a double lung transplant, you know what you're going to be on the rest of your life? You're going to be on anti-rejection medication so that your body doesn't reject your new lungs. You want to know what that does? It lowers your immune system. That's what anti-rejection drugs do. They lower your immune system. This is science. This is hard, cold facts. You're going to open yourself up to more possibility of getting COVID. Do the right thing. Get your shot. Quit being a fucking baby about it. Do it now. I'm sick of people that I love and care about scared to death of catching this through no fault of their own, that have autoimmune system problems that they were born with that they can't help. These people have to do their job. I'm I wish I could say what I would like to have happen to Bill Maher, but I'd get a visit from the police, so I'm just going to leave it right here. So James Carville and Bill Maher, congratulations. We have this message for you.
Don't be a douchebag.
That's right. You both need to stop being limousine liberal, corporate money loving douchebags, because that's what y'all are. Speaking of, I want to get to this story. We're probably not going to have a lot of time to get to it because we are starting to get a little low on time. Make sure you check this out on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Southpaws Radio Show. We got a link to it here. We have a story from the New York Times. This is Michael Wines. It was dated October 29th, and it was updated November 4th. Headline reads, Florida bars state professors from testifying in voting rights case. So, University of Florida professors who used to be able to participate in lawsuits against the state of Florida as expert witnesses over voting fraud now are being told no, which is a blatant First Amendment violation. It's prior restraint, which the Supreme Court has ruled basically the only time the government can ever use prior restraint is national security.
Perry Mason
That's
would
it.
roll over in his grave.
That's crazy.
So what do they do? Are they going to get experts from out of state now? Can you imagine? Well, they probably would have to.
DeSantis is way ahead of his time. He's futuristic. We get a
For all the wrong
conservative
reasons.
president here in a few years. I don't care who it is. This is what you're going to be seeing ubiquitously.
Yeah, I'm so scared. Like, I feel like we've just been screaming warnings for 5 years, and nobody is listening. They just don't care.
Mm-hmm.
States where Biden won by comfortable margins now are equal. They're 50-50.
Yeah. One other story that we have on our Facebook page, Bill Bostic writing for Business Insider. Headline reads, a QAnon influencer who accused Democrats of being pedophiles turned out to be a convicted child molester.
When he made that charge or since?
Isn't that just lovely?
But he committed the crime after he made
Before.
Before.
Yes. In 1990, he was convicted of coercing an 8-year-old boy into sexual acts that took place 3 years earlier. So, yeah. He was outed by Right Wing Watch, which, by the way, they do fantastic work. Well, our final segment is Off the Cuff, and Jack, this one's got your name on it. PETA is upset at Major League Baseball for using the term bullpen. They say it's insensitive to cows.
I feel that.
They want to change the term from bullpen to the arm barn.
Maybe Carville's right. There's just too much wokeness.
Maybe
That's
he
offensive
is.
to cows, too. I'm not okay with it.
We're out of time, folks. I'm Darren Gibson.
I'm Katy Steele.
I'm Jack Prince.
Please support independent media and the First Amendment.
The stations that carry Southpaws do not necessarily share the opinions expressed on the show. Southpaws is protected by the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution and is copyrighted by Big D Entertainment. All rights reserved.